Should freedom be limited to protect democracy? Hi everyone, today I'd like to discuss a question that has become increasingly important in modern constitutional democracies. Should freedom ever be limited in order to protect democracy itself? Democracy is built on freedom. Citizens have the right to vote, express their opinions from political parties, and criticize those in power. Without these freedoms, democracy cannot function. For this reason, many people believe that freedom should receive the strongest possible legal protection. However, democracy also faces a difficult dilemma. What happens if people use democratic freedoms to destroy democracy itself? Imagine a political group that openly supports violence, rejects elections, and promises to abolish constitutional rights if it gains power. Should a democratic government allow such a group to participate freely in politics? Supporters of unrestricted freedom argue that the answer is yes. They believe democracy should trust its citizens. Once governments begin restricting political speech or organizations, there is always a risk that those powers will be abused. A government might claim to be protecting democracy while actually suppressing legitimate opposition. History contains many examples of governments using national security or public order as excuses to silence critics. From this perspective, protecting freedom is the best way to protect democracy. Others disagree. They argue that democracy is not simply majority rule. It is a constitutional system based on human rights, the rule of law, and free elections. If an organization seeks to abolish these principles through violence or intimidation, allowing it unlimited freedom may eventually destroy the very democracy that protects everyone's rights. This idea is sometimes called the paradox of tolerance. A society that tolerates every form of intolerance without limit may eventually lose the ability to remain tolerant at all. In my opinion, democracy should protect freedom as broadly as possible. However, freedom should not extend to actions that directly threaten the constitutional order through violence or the destruction of democratic institutions. Any restrictions must be narrowly defined based on clear legal standards and reviewed by independent courts. Otherwise, governments themselves may become the greatest threat to democracy. Ultimately, democracy survives not because freedom has no limits, but because those limits are carefully controlled by law rather than political convenience. A free society must remain open to disagreement. At the same time, it must be capable of defending the constitutional principles that make freedom possible in the first place. So here's my question for you. Should a democratic society tolerate groups that seek to abolish democracy, or should it restrict them in order to protect the constitutional system? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for listening. See you next time.